Look at this amazing diagram speaking about the learning pyramid. So 5% of what you learn in a lecture you retain. Reading about 10%, audio visual 20%, demonstration, when you have to demonstrate it, you remember about 30%, discussion 50%, practice, when you actually have to practice doing it, you remember about 75% of what you're trying to learn, and teaching others, you learn about 90% of what you're trying to learn when you actually have to teach others.
You know, if you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education because like it shouldn't be like this huge chore.
So I think colleges are basically for fun and to prove you can do your chores, but they're not for learning.
You're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, self-taught, yes, meaning I don't have an aerospace degree.
So how did you go about acquiring the knowledge?
Well, like I said, I read a lot of books, talked to a lot of people, and have a great team.
You don't need college to learn stuff, okay? Everything is available basically for free. You can learn anything you want for free. It is not a question of learning. There is a value that colleges have, which is like, seeing whether can somebody work hard at something, including a bunch of sort of annoying homework assignments, and still do their homework assignments, and kind of soldier through and get it done. That's like the main value of college. And then also, if you probably want to hang around with a bunch of people your own age for a while, instead of going right into the workforce. So I think colleges are basically for fun and to prove you can do your chores, but they're not for learning.
Guys, so Henry Ford said, "It is observed that successful people get ahead in the time that other people waste. Wake up earlier, go to bed later, work on your dreams, what you want to do in the future. While other people are sleeping or partying or just relaxing, successful people get ahead." If you want to be the best, you have to work more than the rest. You got to work smarter and harder. It doesn't help you just work harder and work stupid. You got to work smarter and harder. Nothing happens until you move. You have to take action. Use your weekends. Grateful for where I'm at. Excited about where I'm going. Even though you're not where you want to be, keep positive. Keep working. You will make progress. And stay patient. Success takes time. Look at this. It's gradual at first, and then suddenly your success starts to exponentialize.
You're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, self-taught, yes, meaning I don't have an aerospace degree.
So how did you go about acquiring the knowledge?
Well, like I said, I read a lot of books, talked to a lot of people, and have a great team.
You don't need college to learn stuff, okay? Everything is available basically for free. You can learn anything you want for free.
But first you need to find a passion. No alarm clock needed. My passion wakes me up. You have to find something you're incredibly passionate about. Experiment and try many different things. Look at these people who designed and are doing these amazing things because it is their passion.
a bustling operation behind the fancy cameras of food commercials. It takes dozens of people and a few customized robots to make a burger look this juicy.
Oh, nothing here is simple. As far as the work we do, it's incredibly complex, very technical.
Steve Geralt has filmed commercials for big brands like Hershey's, Heinz, and Pepsi through his production company, The Garage. And there's a lot of money on the line. Filming one 30-second ad can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're working against the clock because they use real food, which doesn't stay pretty for long.
That's the misnomer about everything. Faking makes things harder.
We visited Steve's studio in Brooklyn, New York, to see how his team films the perfect burger. Today, Steve and his team are working on a test shoot for Burger King. They'll use it to try and land the client.
Yeah, good.
Brett Kurzweil is a veteran food stylist. It's his job to make the burger look like a Whopper. He usually has a budget of a couple $1,000s, and he always buys a lot more than he'll use, so he can pick out the perfect-looking bun, patty, and veggies. Then he gets to work, but he doesn't cook the meat all the way through.
Because I didn't want it to shrink too much. I wanted to get as much volume out of this piece of meat as I could get.
Even perfect patties need final touches, so he uses a colorant made of gravy darkener and soap to add a charred look. He only has to paint half the burger because the camera films from just one side. A mixture of Vaseline and pulverized meat helps fill in any holes. And those grill marks? Another trick of the trade. Brett heats up metal skewers and then
I just pushed into the burger with the hot metal and it seared.
next he melts the cheese using a clothes steamer.
How did you change it to make it burger?
Some other tricks: denture cream to hold up ingredients.
For condensation on cans, we'll use glycerin.
Yeah, not that much. Too far.
While Brett finishes up, Steve's team is making sure everything is ready on set. The trickiest part is combining what the client wants in the commercial with what's technologically possible.
They have no idea about engineering. Yeah, they're just like, robots are cool. We want a robot.
But since today he's working on a test shoot, he just has to implement his own vision.
I'll be one of those people that wears the protection.
Then he turns to master rigger Matthew Huber. He says half the time he has to build the rigs completely from scratch. They provide the structure for the specialized equipment that makes food dance across the screen. His work goes hand in hand with the robots. Like these air pistons he uses to launch food. Or these catapults. To save on buying new parts, he uses a lot of the same base pieces.
It's like Legos, you just put stuff together, take it apart, do something different with it the next time. So we've used like a lot of these pieces probably like hundreds of times.
A glass of soda. I need to have at least 6 of the same glasses for quick changes if they're scratched, because it's video. So it's a little bit, one breaks, exactly.
So when that burger arrives, it's game time.
I gotta go on set.
Yay, burger!
Now it's a race against the clock.
Get the tomatoes to Brett.
Angle feels right.
Can we melt the cheese a little more? Maybe get a little heat in there. Go ahead and roll camera.
And push in a little bit closer.
All right, good.
Today they have custom-built water-cooled lights that don't torch the food.
We used to have like these really hot lights that would like cook the food and it would die really quickly, so like the ice cream would be like impossible to shoot.
The first action uses a dolly zoom to create something known as the Hitchcock effect.
But the whole background is like warping around it.
Cue the robots. They're actually the same kind that build cars. This robot cost $150,000. And it can pretty much do any move you can think of.
Sometimes you could program the robot pretty quickly. Some moves take a whole day.
Here's the second shot. Steve envisioned the camera moving through a field of burgers as each gets pulled out of frame.
It's a really complex move that the robots do really easily, and they do it the same exact way every time.
But speed is not the only challenge. Every shot has to be identical. If a burger is even a centimeter off, or if something on set gets bumped between takes, they might have to start over.
These fries don't want to behave.
This laser helps them keep track of the burger's position.
Or sometimes you might do a job where there's 100 takes.
There's always curve balls that happen because it's a lot of problem solving, which I love.
For the last shot, Steve ties all the ingredients on a fishing wire, and a robot slices the string and the camera catches the perfect drop. This exact move was actually Steve's claim to fame in 2016.
Did this famous burger drop video that went viral all over the internet.
He slowly raked in millions of views across platforms, and global publications started covering his work. All that social media buzz earned him a lot of viewers and new clients. And he was able to launch The Garage in 2019.
The burger drop was kind of like the spark that started the path towards where we are today. And now TikTok is like crazier than Instagram ever was for me.
Steve is a former food photographer, but he wanted to combine his love of engineering, food, and video.
And amazingly, there's a job that lets me do that. There's a lot of different jobs that my guidance counselor did not tell me about, including my own.
Today, his team films 40 advertisements a year, billing over $5 million annually.
Kind of feels like CGI, but it's actually done in camera. And I think to accomplish that like larger-than-life feeling takes just a lot of technology and skill.
Steve says they know they've done a good job when viewers can't tell a whole production is hidden behind a shot.
They have no idea what we do at the end of the day. It is fun for people to understand how complex this stuff is.
But all that complexity is worth it, because there's a lot of money on the line. Fast food companies poured $5 billion into advertising in 2019, and for good reason. They know just how valuable the power of food suggestion can be. A Yale University study found that visual cues like food ads can have an effect on food cravings. Another study showed visual cues can influence overeating and even weight gain, and that can convert into traffic and impressions for a brand.
You're responsible for a lot of people breaking their diet.
Yeah, me included.
These brands led the pack in ad spending in 2019, and budgets just keep ballooning. In September, Burger King announced it'll invest $400 million in restaurant renovations and advertising, a 30% increase from 2021. Which is why Steve and his team filmed this Whopper pitch, hoping to hook a new client with their dancing robots and juicy burgers.
Look what this guy says. His counselor did not tell him how he could combine his business interests to create a career like this. Don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. Look at this fraction here in the diagram below. What fraction of your day are you using following your interests and your passions and researching a bit, and not just working on things you have to work on? And then don't be worried about setbacks or failures. That's just part of the process. Someone asked Mr. Thomas J. Watson, founder of IBM, how he can be successful faster. He said you must double your failure rate. Success lies on the far side of failure. So if you double your failure rate, you're also doubling your success rate, because they walk sort of hand in hand. Many people dream of success, but to me, success can only be achieved through repeated failure and introspection. In fact, that 1% of your work that represents success comes from 99%, which people call failure. Guys, look what Winston Churchill said here. You have enemies, good. That means you've stood up for something, sometime in your life. You have enemies, good. That means you've stood up for something, sometime in your life. Guys, don't worry if people oppose you. Follow the truth, follow the right way. Look at Margaret Thatcher here, how people opposed her in Parliament, and she ended up one of the most successful Prime Ministers England has ever had.
I give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
There is no doubt that the Prime Minister has in many ways achieved substantial success for the economy. There is one statistic that I understand is not, however, challengeable, and that is that over her 11 years, the gap between the richest 10% and the poorest 10% in this country has widened substantially.
That's right.
How can she say at the end of her chapter of British politics that she can justify many people in a constituency such as mine being relatively much poorer off, much less well housed, and much less well provided than it was in 1979? Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the Honourable Member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is a Liberal policy. Yes, it came out, he didn't intend it to, but he did. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm extremely grateful. The Prime Minister is aware that I detest every single one of her domestic policies, and I've never hid that.
And I think that the honourable gentleman knows that I have the same contempt for his socialist policies as the people of East Europe who have experienced it have it for theirs. I think I must have hit the right nail on the head when I pointed out that the logic of those policies are they'd rather have the poor poorer. Once they start to talk about the gap, they'd rather the gap were down here. That. Not that. But that. So long as the gap is smaller, they'd rather have the poor poorer. You do not create wealth and opportunity that way. You do not create a property-owning democracy that way.
So in starting a business, approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. Stop selling, start helping.
Here's a powerful principle. You can change your attitude from negative and worried to positive and constructive in a single moment by simply switching your thoughts off of the problem and onto the solution. Instead of asking or worrying about who did what and who is to blame, you should instead ask the questions, what do we do now? And what's the solution? Your mind is designed in such a way that the more you focus on finding solutions, the more solutions you will find. The more you think and talk about solutions, the faster and easier you will come up with even better solutions. You will actually become more creative and competent at solving problems, dealing with difficulties, achieving goals, and getting key results as you discipline yourself to focus more and more on the positive, constructive steps that you can take.
Next, we can learn about one of the most disciplined cultures in the history of the world and one of the most frugal, people who did not like money or like spending money or gluttony or all kinds of worldly things, the Spartans. Look at this quote, one of the best things in life is realizing you're perfectly happy without the things you thought you needed most. Guys, isolate yourself from worldly desires.
I wish next to explain the educational system of Lycurgus and how it differs from other systems. In the other Greek states, parents who profess to give their sons the best education place their boys under the care and control of a moral tutor as soon as they can understand what is said to them, and send them to a school to learn letters, music, and the exercises of the wrestling ground. Moreover, they soften the children's feet by giving them sandals, and pamper their bodies with changes of clothing, and it is customary to allow them as much food as they can eat. Lycurgus, on the contrary, instead of leaving each father to appoint a slave to act as tutor, gave the duty of controlling the boys to a member of the class from which the highest offices are filled. In fact, to the warden, as he was called. He gave this person authority to gather the boys together, to take charge of them and to punish them severely in case of misconduct. He also assigned him a staff of youths provided with whips to chastise them when necessary, and the result is that modesty and obedience are inseparable companions at Sparta. Instead of softening the boys' feet with sandals, he required them to harden their feet by going without shoes. He believed that if this habit were cultivated, that a youth who had accustomed himself to go barefoot would leap and jump and run more nimbly than a boy in sandals. And, instead of letting them be pampered in the matter of clothing, he introduced the custom of wearing one garment throughout the year, believing that they would thus be better prepared to face changes of heat and cold. As to the food, he required the prefect to bring with him such a moderate amount of it that the boys would never suffer from repletion and would know what it was to go with their hunger unsatisfied. For he believed that those who underwent this training would be better able to continue working on an empty stomach, if necessary, and would be capable of going on longer without extra food if the word of command were given to do so. They would want fewer delicacies and would accommodate themselves more readily to anything put before them, and at the same time would enjoy better health.
I was not born into a poor family, but when I quit my job and got married, I was poor. God, in His wonderful way, arranges circumstances so that we struggle. That's the best thing for us. And you still follow the principles of God. And if we can teach our children self-denial, that's the greatest lesson. Don't envy those, you young people, don't envy those other children whose parents are rich, who they can have everything. Don't envy them. Wait 20 years and see where they are. Useless to God and useless to man. Be thankful if you've got parents who refuse to give you certain things that you asked for because they wanted you to grow up godly. To teach our children to stand up for the Lord. To teach our children to stand for the truth in school where so many wrong things are being done nowadays. Don't teach your children to be popular. Jesus was not. He was despised and rejected by men.
I have now dealt with the Spartan system of education and that of the other Greek states. Which system turns out men more obedient, more respectful, and more strictly temperate?
Look at this quote here: Spartans were teetotalers and only slaves got drunk. They used to demonstrate the stupidity of drinking, and what many young people do in high school with drinking, Spartans looked down on as weakness.
So Spartan children were taught at an early age that heavy drinking was for slaves only. Every now and then, Spartan soldiers would force their slaves to get drunk to the point of belligerence. Once thoroughly blotto, the soldiers would parade the drunk slaves in front of the local children to let them see how ridiculous they looked. Drinking was a sign of weakness.
Listen to these rules of Sparta, how you should behave.
The greatest shame for a Spartan was to return home alive from a lost battle. So too, do not return from a challenge having not given everything. Seek out intense competition. You will push yourself much harder. Speed, strength, and agility are less essential than stamina, grit, endurance, and courage. Do not engage in gossip. Only engage in conversation that will nourish and strengthen your spirit. Surround yourself with people who are ruthlessly devoted to becoming their greatest selves. Continuously introduce yourself to difficult situations where you are forced to either sink or swim. A great Spartan must have the ability to quickly adapt. Refuse to be a victim of circumstance. Learn to be self-reliant and prepared for any situation. Find ways to implement short bursts of discomfort into your daily life. This will ensure growth and prevent you from falling into sloth. Dedicate yourself to perpetual physical training, regardless of circumstance and feelings.
There is a huge amount of freedom that comes to you when you take nothing personally. Guys, things happen on earth. People say things happen to you. Just let it be like water off a duck's back. Just ignore it, move forward, focus on what's important to you and your goals. Your success is directly proportional to the quality of the relationships in your life. You must build in your work life and personal life the best relationships. And cut out the worst relationships. Make it your business to stop any relationships that are not upbuilding for you.